Masechah Sanhedrin Daf Samachet Amud Aleph by the top. I ended off in the previous daf by saying Amar Rabbi Akiva. Now our Mishnah says that Rabbi Akiva seemingly learned the cucumbers from Rabbi Eliezer, but not from Rabbi Yeshua and not Rabbi Eliezer. The problem is, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yeshua, did Rabbi Akiva learn about how to do the magic about cucumbers from Rabbi Yeshua? About ten, right? That says long one. Kisha Halal, Rabbi Eliezer was sick. Rabbi Eliezer was in Hedem. He was in Galut. He was excommunicated. They couldn't approach him because he was in Galut, because he disagreed with the halacha. So when he was sick, however, Rabbi Akiva and other Chachamim came to visit him. He was sitting in, Rabbi Eliezer was sitting in his canopy bed. They sat in the outside room. That day was Erev Shabbat. Rabbi Eliezer son Hurkanus came to take off Rabbi Eliezer tefillin before Shabbat. God ben Zifar. Rabbi Eliezer yelled at him and he left. And Marlon Habrav, he told his other rabbis, Hukun said, listen, I think my father is losing it. He's telling me to run away. I'm trying to take off his tefillin before Shabbat. Marlon Rabbi heard this and said, no. He said, your mother, your mind, Hurkunus, I mean, his son and your mother's mind are all messed up. Why? Why are you leaving out an isur of sekila of Shabbat, and you're vaskim be'isur shivud, and you're worrying about derabanan halacha? Meaning, he says, yes, it's Shabbat's coming along, but at the same time, you should be more worried about the sekila things. Cook the food for Shabbat, take care of those things in Shabbat, and the isur derabanan of wearing tefillin in Shabbat. But what about that later? Why are you worried about the tefillin now? So now what happens? Now that the Hamim saw that they're sharp, they entered the room and sat 4 amot away from him because he's in community, because he's in Hiram, and therefore they couldn't sit so close to him. They sat there. He asked the Hamim, "Why'd you come now?" We came to learn Torah. If that's the case, how come you didn't come until now? We didn't have the time. We weren't able to come visit. We weren't able to come. They didn't want to come because of the communication. He said to them, I'll be surprised if you guys die naturally, which is basically saying it's a shame that you guys didn't learn Torah from me. Amar Rabbi Akiva said in a second, Shalima, what about me? Amar Lo, he said them back, Shadachak Hashem Shalem, yours will be worse than theirs because you could have learned much more than them. And that's actually what happened. He died much more gruesomely than they did. Natal Shnei he took his arms and put it on his chest. Amar, he said, Oy lachem shtei zrotai, what a shame, my two arms, Shehen Kishne Sifrei Torah, they're like two Sefer Torah that are rolled up. He compared it that he's full of Torah that wasn't taught. It's like a Sefer Torah that's rolled up, it's not open, that you can't see it. I learned a lot of Torah and I taught a lot of Torah. I learned a lot of Torah, I didn't take out from my teachers knowledge as much as like a dog who takes a sip from the ocean, and I barely touched the surface. I taught Torah, and my students barely touched my Torah that I taught. They barely touched the surface. Like you take like the lipstick into the thing, you dip it into it, and that's all they took. He said, not that I learned also know 300 halachot that pertain to the halacha of like tzarat. No one ever asked me about them. None of that. I also learned 300 halachot. And the Gemara now sticks in halachot. People say that he said 3,000 halachot. Bentiat kishin, planting cucumbers through sorcery. Nobody ever asked me about them. Except for Rabbi Akiva over here. Said that one time we were walking in the street, and Rabbi Akiva asked me, teach me, Rabbi, about how to plant cucumbers through sorcery. I said one word, and the whole field filled with cucumbers. Rabbi Akiva then said, okay, now that you tell me how to plant them, now teach me how to uproot them in one shot. I said one word, and they all uprooted and gathered to the corner through sorcery. What's the halakha? I asked him halakha. He said that he was a professional in halachot of tumah tara. What about these things? All these things are made of leather. Are they susceptible to tumah? Can they become tameh or not? Amarlani, I said they can become tameh, but and they can also become tahor by dipping them into the mikveh. Like what about a shoe that's still on the shoe smith's form that he makes the shoe on? if it's still on there. Is that able to come tama or not? Is that considered a kli or not? Rather than who tahor, the shoe cannot become tameh. When he said the word tahor, he passed away. His soul left him through tahora. That's like the concept. He said tahor and he passed away with tahor on his mouth. Amar Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Yeshua stood up on his feet, and he said, "Hutar hanadar, hutar hanadar." He then annulled the excommunication that Blizzard had because he wanted to take care of the body. Rabbi Akiva met the funeral procession of Rabbi Blizzard's body from Sisayan. He brought it all the way to Lod. He kept on hitting himself till he started bleeding. He opened his eulogy and he said, Avi Avi Rechev Yisrael Varashav. My father, the chariot of Bnei Israel, and it's a horseman. That's the same wording that Elisha, when Elisha saw Eliyahu leave, that's what he cried out. That's how Elisha cried out. He said, I have a lot of money, but I don't have no money changer to exchange it for me. I have so much questions to Torah, but I can't ask anybody. So regardless, that's the end of the story. But now we see that Rabbi Akiva learned how to do the cucumber sorcery from Rabbi Eliezer. Why we say that it was through Rabbi Yeshua? The Gemara says, Amar Gemara. So we say Rabbi Eliezer. The Gemara answers, Gemara Eliezer. He don't take Eliezer, but he lost further, but he don't understand it. Gemara Yeshua, and from Yeshua, then he understood it fully. How can Eliezer start doing the magic? Mishnah says, Gemara says, no. It's different to teach it, just to know how to do it. The Amar more said, don't teach to do. You can't teach to do it. Be allowed to learn it in order to understand how it works so that you can prosecute others and know the ins and outs of the halachot. Ben Sorer More, the rebellious son, as we know, gets put to death. What's the age group that he can become a born Sorer More? We will learn about the details later on. When he has 2 pubic hairs, after he turns 13, until he grows a beard. That's referring to the lower beard. He can't have too much pubic hair, not the facial beard. But Hamim referred to the pubic hair as a beard because they just wanted to use a nice euphemism. Shinar Pasuk says, when a man has a son, Ben, he has to be a boy, not a daughter. Ben also is young son, he can't be a fully man like a person with full pubic hair. A minor, however, is patur from being chayam mitash because he's not chayav in mitzvot at all, and therefore he can't be put to death. How do you know that a minor is patur? What do you mean? How is he patur? He didn't enter mitzvot. He's not 13. How can he chayam mitah? The Gemara says now. The question is, why did Torah want to? Why did the Mishnah need to prove that you don't get chayam mitah for a minor, 12-year-old or younger? If they never get put to death, why do you have to prove that? We know that. Whenever a minor does anything, he's patur. He can't be put to death. So why do you have to use the patur to teach you patur? The says because here is different. The reason is because the concept of ben soreh more is a very big chiddush. Hashem safon herak. He's not killed because he did something right now. He's killed because he might do something later on. It's one of the biggest hiddushim in the Torah. He's the only person that's judged for now, and not for what he might be, and not for what he's doing now. He didn't do anything that's chamita now. We're worried about what he can become. We're worried that he's rotten to the core, and we're going to kill him now. So it's over here. The Kevin Dal Shem Safon. You might think that because the guy is executed because of his potential, maybe you can also execute a minor, and therefore the Mishnah says not. But additionally, Ben Velo Ish Katan Mashma. When it says a son and not an adult, it sounds like the minor can be punished according to the pasuk. Therefore, the Gemara asked, okay, Amar Damarav, Damar Kra Pasuk says, Ki ish ben. When the man has a son, Ben has a much is referring to a son who's like a man right after becoming an adult. Okay. The Ashia keeps that kind of right? That's the proof that a minor is patur. Okay, now that has to have a lower beard. The Gemara says, the hair has to grow around the crown of the male organ. The male organ and not the betzim, not the testicles, that is when it's considered an adult. Okay, potentially a minor impregnated a woman and he became a father. And benona said ben sromer, that son cannot become a ben sromer because when the man will have a son, ish ben v'lo ben, not when a child has a son, and therefore if a minor managed to impregnate a woman, that child is ineligible to become a ben sromer. The Gemara says, this pasuk is needed for Yudam Marav. They taught you that the child has to be an adult. How can you use this to teach something else? The Gemara says, ben The pasuk could have said the son will become like a man. My ish ben. Why did the pasuk use that wording? Shmamina, like the Rav Chisda teach you also the halacha of Rav Chisda that the boy must have been an adult. The boy's father has to be an adult. Maybe the pasuk is teaching you everything, but Rav Chisda regarding that halacha. How do you know both? Ben ish. The pasuk could have said the son of a man. My ish ben. Why say the son, the man's son? To teach you both hidushim of the fact that the father has to be an adult, and also to teach you that the boy has to be at least 13 years old as well. Okay. This goes against the Rabba because the Rabba holds that a minor cannot physically become a father. Shinar Pasuk says, if a person who owes somebody else money and that person dies without relatives, he has to pay that to now the owes money, he has to pay it to a Kohen. Where it says, can it be possible that a Jewish person has no relatives? Every person has some type of relative, no matter how distant it is. The Gemara says, a case where you stole from a convert, and a convert, when he converts, he has no relatives. Pasuk mentioned man, teach an adult. Only a man, an adult, you have to check if he has additional relatives before giving to the Kohen. If it was a minor convert, he definitely has no relatives because he cannot have children, and that's to prove that Rabbah holds that there's no children. And therefore, our Mishnah that's excluding a case of, or rather, Rav Chisda, that says that the child has to have an adult father and not a minor father, is excluding Rabbah, who holds that the child, a minor, cannot have a child in the first place.